In the article, Eating Christmas in the Kalahari, the author and anthropologist shares a personal experience while conducting research with the Kung people in the Kalahari Desert. The anthropologist buys a large, fat ox to show gratitude for the community's cooperation in his research. He assumes that the gift that will be appreciated and that he will be praised for his generosity. However, instead of expressing thanks, the community mocks him, criticizing the ox for being old and thin. At first, the anthropologist is hurt and confused. He feels like the community is ungrateful and harsh, but he later learns that this is an important part of their cultural practice. The Kung people use mockery to keep their community humble and prevent any individuals from becoming too arrogant. Their worldview is built on unbiased and fair systems. For no one is supposed to be standing out or thinking of themselves as better than anyone else. The anthropologist is coming from a Western perspective where this gift is viewed as an act of kindness and generosity and expecting gratitude in return. But in the Kung culture, such generosity is especially seen as too much or could be perceived as boastful or arrogant. The community uses mockery to maintain the balance, avoiding claiming superiority. The story highlights a crucial concept: worldview. Our worldview shapes how we interpret the world around us. And when two people have different worldviews interacting, misunderstandings are mostly inevitable. For anthropologists, who is deeply embedded in the Western perspective, generosity is universally seen as a virtue that should be met with gratitude. In Western cultures, gift-giving is often about expressing kindness and establishing the positive relationships. However, the Kung people have completely different cultural value system. For humility is paramount, and any gesture that may be seen as elevating an individual's status above others is immediately downplayed. The mockery serves as a kind of social check to prevent anyone from being too proud. One clear ethnocentric bias that is the idea of gift-giving is a universal form of generosity. It should be met with praise and thanks. The man thought his offering of the big fat ox that could be put him in higher praise with the community. Due to cultural differences, that is seen as boastful or arrogant to the community. And the balance between people is kept by the mockery, which is what they are trying to do with this man. One of the best practices for communication across culture is that the story highlights cultural humility. Cultural humility is recognized that our culture's perspective is the only valid one. It involves approaching others with a sense of openness, curiosity, and respect, rather than assuming that their practices should align with ours. In the case of the anthropologist, if he had been any more aware of the Kung's worldview, the customs he might have had avoided the emotional hurt that he felt with the mockery. By practicing our cultural humility, listening closely to the community, he would have learned a deeper understanding, deeper reasoning behind their behavior, which ultimately would have helped him understand and respect their cultural norms. A similar kind of misunderstanding that happens in everyday life that we don't take the time to understand is cultural context of others. For example, I've had my own experiences with cultural misunderstandings, practically around the issue of abortion. Before I developed my faith, a deeper understanding, I didn't understand why people were so judgy around the idea of abortion. I didn't know why some people thought of it as a fundamental right and why some people thought of it as morally wrong. But as I went into deeper in my faith and I talked to people, I had a deeper understanding. Just like the anthropologist did in the story, after the fact, he had conversations with other members of the community, and he found a deeper understanding of why they do what they do in their behaviors. He asked questions, and questions can avoid any frustrations or developing a deeper understanding of the issue. The example ties back to the key lesson of Eating Christmas in the Kalahari, the importance of asking questions and being open to learning about the different cultures. Often we operate with a place of assumption, thinking that our own worldview is the only right one. or assuming that others will automatically understand our intentions. But the communication is complex, and context matters. And what be considering a positive act in one culture could be misunderstood in another. And what seems like a rude behavior could also be part of a completely normal, respectful cultural practice in another context. The practice of approaching others with respect, curiosity, and openness helps us bridge these gaps. If we're able to actively listen to one another and understand the underlying cultural meaning behind their actions, and approaching situations with empathy, we can reduce misunderstandings and build stronger, more respectful relationships. Just like anthropologists in the story, who learned to experience by listening to the Kung people, we can all benefit from embracing cultural humility in our interactions. One final thought I have is the world is so diverse, and each culture has its own set of values, norms, and practices. These differences can shape our communication in many ways, opening us to learning more about each other. We foster more respectful, meaningful interactions. Whether it's the same we give gifts, expressing our faith, or approaching social issues, it's essential to recognize that communication is deeply influenced by the worldview we bring to the table. Understanding and respecting these differences is key to becoming a more harmonious and empathetic world.